Rock Hudson is an American actor born in 1925 who thrived in the 1950s and 60s as a Hollywood heartthrob. He became the ideal image of a man and was virtually desired by all. Hudson ultimately had a tragic end in 1985 when he sadly passed away from complications with AIDS. It wasn't until he came out about his AIDS diagnosis that his identity as a gay man was revealed to the public. The truth about Hudson's sexuality changed his carefully cultivated public image that he had been forced to maintain for so many years. His image was actually so persistent in pop culture that it was used as a strategy in films he was cast in to either make his characters adhere to it or purposefully stray away. The first Rock Hudson film I'm going to be looking at in this video essay is All That Heaven Allows, directed by Douglas Sirk in 1955. All That Heaven Allows is about a wealthy widow named Carrie Scott, played by Jane Wyman, who, much to the dismay of her family, falls in love with the humble gardener Ron Kirby, played by Rock Hudson. Hudson's portrayal of Ron aligns fairly well with his image off-screen. As Barbara Klinger writes in her book, Melodrama and Meaning, Kirby is presented as the natural man, earthy, generous, soft-spoken, and unassuming.
Did the bird frighten you, Mrs. Scott?
It would frighten anyone.
One of the biggest reasons that women desired Rock Hudson so much is because he felt safe. He wasn't overly aggressive or sexual, and seems like he would never try and take advantage. This was most likely in part because of his lack of attraction to women, but nevertheless, this was the idea of him that Hollywood sold. The character of Ron Kirby inherited this feeling of safeness. From the moment we meet him, he seems like an extremely gentle person.
Let's take your boots off, huh?
He is very cordial to Carrie over their impromptu lunch and treats her like a lady. Since he's not rich, he doesn't have a snobbery about wealth like most of the other people in Carrie's life, and finds joy in simpler things like planting trees.
At agricultural school, I got interested in trees, so I started growing them.
Klinger goes on to talk about how even though Hudson's life seemed more mundane than other Wilder movie stars, his beefcake image operated to make all of this normality hyper-viral and sexy. Similarly, the character of Ron Kirby also lives more toned-down life compared to that of the men Carrie knows who are always going to the club and such. Despite his quiet and simple life, Carrie still chooses Ron because he is that desirable of a love interest to her. Overall, Ron just seems like a very genuine and honest person. In a way, this creates a complicated kind of dissonance with Hudson's real-life persona. No matter his intentions, Hudson's public image was inherently ingenuine due to the fact that he was being forced to keep one of the biggest parts of himself private. This causes a great disparity because everybody thought of Hudson as an honest and sincere person, which is probably why so many people felt betrayed after he was outed. A more deceptive side of Hudson is explored in the second film that I will be looking at, 1959's Pillow Talk, directed by Michael Gordon. Pillow Talk is a sex comedy about two people, Jan Morrow, played by Doris Day, and Brad Allen, played by Hudson, who share a party line and form a contentious relationship. Brad is a notorious womanizer, but after setting his sights on getting Jan to sleep with him, he disguises himself as a sweet man from Texas named Rex Stetson.
Don't tell me this young feller was trying to force his attentions upon you.
Well,
There's one thing I can't stand, man. A man who tries to take advantage of a woman. We make short work of his kind back in Texas.
The film creates a binary of men, with Brad on one end and Rex on the other. Whereas Brad has an obsession with sex and seems to always be courting multiple women, Rex is a gentleman to the point that Carrie has concerns about his sexuality since he hadn't tried to get her into bed. In comparison to Rock Hudson's off-screen persona, the disguise of Rex is much more what people are used to seeing of Hudson. He treats Carrie with nothing but respect and has a tender demeanor that comes with the southern act that Brad has created.
I thought...
Thought what, man?
Well, I thought you brought me up here to...
Oh, ma'am.
I'm sorry, Rex. I should have known that you're not like the others.
Further comparisons can be drawn between Hudson and Rex Stetson when Brad briefly pretends that Rex is gay and that this must be why he's been so passive with Carrie. As we now know, Hudson was actually gay, so it's interesting to see him play into these stereotypes in the name of comedy. It's possible that this scene actually helped to maintain Hudson's image as a heterosexual man, since in the end it was proved that Rex was in fact straight, just a more sensitive and kinder version of traditional masculinity. Brad Allen himself is the exact opposite of Hudson.
He's a sneaking, double-crossing...
I know that too. Have you any idea what it's like to be on a party line with a sex maniac?
He's a symbol of aggressive male heterosexuality and leaves behind all of the wholesome energy that Hudson had been known for. As Katharina Giltree writes in her book, Hollywood Romantic Comedy, Brad lacks sincerity and integrity, and he reduces Jan to a sexual object. It would be nice if he truly cared about Jan's happiness like he pretends to when he's posing as Rex, but his main motive was always just to get this attractive and hard-to-get woman into bed with him.
I'd say 5 or 6 dates ought to do it.
It's so nice to meet a man you feel you can trust.
It's interesting that this is the person who Jan ends up with at the end of Pillow Talk. Klinger writes that until Pillow Talk, the majority of Hudson's film roles depicted a romantic hero whose relative lack of emotional complexity was matched by general unerring moral instincts, supporting basic social ideas of right and wrong. Brad very clearly strays away from these moral instincts that Klinger references, and yet he still gets Jan. The messaging of this pairing is much different than that of All That Heaven Allows with Ron and Carrie. While All That Heaven Allows fights for romance and love, Pillow Talk fights for sex. Overall, All That Heaven Allows uses Rock Hudson's public image to help highlight the wholesomeness and safeness of Ron Kirby. Inversely, Pillow Talk makes Brad Allen completely stray away from the personality of Hudson, but still keeps his beefcake image to maintain desirability. Seen as the Hollywood idea of Rock Hudson is so calculated to make him into this marketable commodity, it makes sense that films would use this casting as the strategy. It's sad that we only have this warped idea of Rock Hudson, but thankfully he was able to finally live his truth in the end, even if it was under unfortunate circumstances.